October 24th, 1929 marks a grim day in American history. It is the day that kicked off the Great Depression. The stock market crashed, financial institutions fell apart, 15 million Americans lost their jobs, and countless became homeless. Faced with severe food shortages, families had to get creative with the way they ate. Sometimes the results were good, other times, not so much. With that in mind, let's dive into 15 dishes born out of America's hardest times. Number 15, Vinegar Pie. During the Great Depression, necessity led to culinary innovation, giving birth to vinegar pie, often known as desperation pie. A lemon, a luxury many families couldn't afford, was replaced by apple cider vinegar, transforming a simple list of pantry staples, eggs, sugar, flour, and vinegar into a delightful treat. Don't let the name deter you. This humble pie offers an unexpectedly pleasing blend of sweet and tangy flavors, with a custard-like texture that melts in your mouth. It's proof that even in the toughest times, a little creativity in the kitchen could still conjure up comfort. Number 14, Garbage Plate. Despite its rather unappetizing name, the garbage plate was an ingenious Depression-era creation. The concept was simple. Use what you have and don't let anything go to waste. The result? A high-energy meal designed to fuel a hard day's work. The garbage plate started with a heaping helping of macaroni salad. It's not your garden variety side dish, but it was cheap and filling. Next came the baked beans, another inexpensive source of protein. The dish was then bulked up further with some fried potatoes, providing a good dose of carbohydrates. The whole thing was topped off with a piece or two of fried hot dog or perhaps bologna if that's what was on hand. The meat provided the much-needed protein to keep those hard-working folks going. Last, but certainly not least, came the toppings. Mustard, chopped onions, ketchup, or even some chili were slathered on top. The idea was to use whatever was on hand to add a punch of flavor to the hearty meal, and it's kinda not that different from today's Thanksgiving leftover sandwiches. Number 13, popcorn and milk. Yup. Back then, families made do with what they had, and popcorn covered in milk became an unexpected main course. This economical combo, often sweetened with a sprinkle of sugar, served as a precursor to today's breakfast cereal. So, next movie night, why not try popcorn Depression style? Swap butter for milk and turn a snack into a meal. You might just stumble upon your new comfort food. While we're on the topic of weird food combos, how about number 12, peanut butter and onions? During the Great Depression, the humble onion met the pantry staple peanut butter in an unexpected culinary union. The process was straightforward. The core of each onion was scooped out, saved for future use. Nothing went to waste. Peanut butter was blended with breadcrumbs made from stale bread, and this mixture was spooned into the hollowed-out onions. After roasting in the oven, the onions turned flavorful and sweet, while the breadcrumbs in the peanut butter remained crisp and crunchy. Number 11, Prune Pudding. Prunes were pretty popular back then. In fact, they even made their way to the White House dining table thanks to First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. She championed a prune pudding, a delicacy that was not only budget-friendly but could be enjoyed year-round, irrespective of the season. Number 10, Spam. This budget-friendly canned meat, a mishmash of pork shoulder, bits of ham, sugar, salt, and starch, became a pantry staple when wallets were thin. The name Spam, a catchy mashup of spiced ham, perfectly sums up this unusual dish. The fact it didn't need refrigeration made some folks skeptical at first, but the need for cheap, easy-to-store food soon overpowered any doubts. But it was World War II that really put Spam on the map. It was a godsend for the troops, easy to transport, and it didn't spoil. The places where soldiers were stationed still have a soft spot for Spam, and it remains part of their culinary scene. Number 9, Kraft's Mac and Cheese. This timeless, wallet-friendly comfort food burst onto the scene in 1937 right alongside quirky eats like Spam. During the Depression, folks were big on macaroni and cheese casseroles. They were economical, fed a crowd, and let's face it, downright tasty. Kraft came in with the genius move, a quicker, super convenient way to whip up this beloved dish. They called it the Kraft Macaroni Dinner, or Kraft Dinner if you're short on breath. This bad boy could be on your table in just 7 to 9 minutes, all thanks to Kraft's patented instant cheese powder, a special ingredient they still use today. In the first year alone, Kraft sold a whopping 9 million boxes of this speedy macaroni. Clearly, they were. Number 7. Mulligan Stew. Created by the homeless, the recipe was more about collective effort than individual ingredients. The setting? A big pot over a roaring campfire. The ingredients? Anything anyone had at their disposal. Could be meat, potatoes, bread, onions, rice, tomatoes, you name it. They even resorted to adding lint or sawdust just to get that satisfying full belly feeling. Meat was a luxury, but when they got their hands on some, it went straight into the pot. And here's a twist. Tobacco was a key flavoring agent. Whether it was loose leaf or squeezed out of cigarette ends, it lent a unique taste to the stew. For those lucky enough to have a roof over their heads, they'd stretch their resources to the max. Savory beef gelatin, made by mixing gelatin and beef broth, was one such clever creation. Old gravy from the icebox could be used to make the most out of scanty meat supplies. Number 6. Cold milk soup. During the harsh times of the Great Depression, simplicity was always a top priority. A straightforward dish known as Amish cold milk soup found its way to the forefront in Amish households. With nothing more than milk poured into a bowl, followed by the addition of bananas and sugar, this dish offers a no-fuss approach to mealtime. The taste? Think of it like your favorite bowl of cereal. This unique concoction became a popular choice during the Great Depression, primarily due to its cost-effectiveness. Given that milk was quite accessible, it made complete sense to base recipes around this key ingredient. Thus, Amish cold milk soup became a staple, offering a comforting, economical way to sustain families through those trying times. Number 5. Potato candy. Sounds weird, right? But it's actually a sweet treat with an Appalachian twist that likely came from Central Eastern Europe. They use potatoes as a base for the dough, kind of like a stand-in for marzipan. Top it off with peanut butter and you've got an all-American candy. Back during the rough days of the Great Depression, these treats were about as budget-friendly as it got. Peanut butter was cheap, and potatoes have always been the go-to when times are tough. So they made these candies to bring a little bit of joy during hard times. These potato candies might not be as popular nowadays, but they're still a hit in Appalachia. They're a sweet reminder of how clever people can be, even when they don't have a lot to work with. Number 4. Cream chipped beef. Who could forget the good old shit on a shingle, or SOS as some fondly or not so fondly call it? Cream chipped beef was a real keeper during the World Wars and the Great Depression. Originating from Pennsylvania Dutch country, this quirky dish was crafted using a combo of salted, dried beef, flour, butter, and milk. It's all smothered over a humble piece of toast, ready to be devoured. Folks got creative too, adding a bit of parsley and pepper if they had it handy, or swapping out the beef for cheaper meats like goat or wild game. And guess what? This relic of a recipe hasn't completely disappeared. You can still find it served up in certain restaurants and diners across the Mid-Atlantic. Number 3. Dandelion Salad. During the Great Depression, it was all about making the most of what you had, even if that meant rummaging in your backyard for some dinner ingredients. Can you believe that dandelions, those stubborn little weeds, were actually a staple? Italian immigrant women, especially those living in New York City, knew the score. They'd pluck these nutrient-packed greens right from the ground and toss them into salads. They would throw in anything they had. Olive oil, hard-boiled eggs, cooked white beans, bacon bits, even bacon grease. A little bit of lemon juice, vinegar, salt, and pepper, and you have a tasty salad straight from the backyard. Number 2. Hoover Stew. The dish got its name from President Herbert Hoover, who many blame for the Great Depression. It's a simple mix, really. A broth made from sliced hot dog rounds, cooked macaroni, canned tomatoes, and some canned veggies, usually corn, beans, or peas. It was all about making the most out of the little they had. Sounds like an odd combo, but hey, desperate times call for creative cooking. Number 1. Mock apple pie. Who needs apples when you've got Ritz crackers, lemon juice, cinnamon, and sugar syrup? Toss them into a pie crust and you've got a dead ringer for a classic apple pie. It might not have been the real deal, but it sure did the trick when times were tough. So, do you think you could stomach any of these Great Depression foods? Let us know in the comments below. But that's all for today. See ya!